They thought they were gods. The Dominion of Thrall had crushed civilizations older than Earth's oceans. They did not conquer with rage. They conquered with policy. Fleets arrived, defenses were measured, resistance was calculated, and then, efficiently, eliminated. Survivors signed compliance accords. Resources flowed. New banners rose. For 300 years, no one had surprised them. Until Sol. Admiral Korth of the 8th Devouring Fleet expected primitive resistance at worst. Radio noise. Chemical rockets. Perhaps a few orbital platforms to sweat aside for sport. Instead, his long-range scouts went silent. Not disabled. Not retreating. Silent. Hours later, debris signatures bloomed across the edge of the system like metallic pollen. Analysis? Korth demanded. His tactical officer's mandibles twitched. Complete structural disintegration. Kinetic trauma. No energy residue. Korth's secondary eyes narrowed. Kinetic? Solid projectiles, Admiral. That word alone felt obscene. Kinetic weapons were relics of primitive war. Inefficient. Barbaric. They pressed forward anyway. And then they saw it. Drifting between Mars and Jupiter, as if it owned the vacuum itself, was a single human vessel. It was not elegant. Thrall warships curved like living organisms, seamless and luminous. This thing looked assembled by a species that distrusted beauty. Slabs of armor overlapped like fortress walls. Massive rail cannons lined its spine. Scars ran across its hull, burn marks deliberately left unpolished. Painted in bold white letters across its flank. Midnight Resolve. And beneath it, smaller text in Terran script. Come and take it. The bridge fell silent. It appears damaged, an aide said cautiously. Armor fragmentation across multiple sections. Korth studied the readings. Power output was stable. Weapons primed. No, he said quietly. It appears confident. The human ship rotated. Not with graceful thrusters. It snapped 90 degrees in a blink, as if space itself had flinched. Gravitational distortions rippled around it. It did not enter subspace. The science officer whispered. It folded local curvature. Korth felt irritation bloom. Open a channel. The human appeared on the hollow display. Older male. Gray threading his beard. A thin scar above one eye. No medals. No elaborate regalia. Just a dark uniform and steady eyes that carried something ancient. This is Admiral Korth of the Dominion of Thrall, he declared. You are in violation of interstellar expansion protocol. Power down your vessel and prepare for integration. The human leaned back. That's so? His voice was gravel and iron. Captain Elias Ward. United Terran Naval Command. He glanced off-screen. They always open with integration, right? A faint chuckle echoed from somewhere on his bridge. Ward looked back at Korth. Let me save you some time. We're not interested. Korth's frills flared. Your species is young. Statistically insignificant. Resistance will result in extinction. Ward scratched his beard thoughtfully. We've heard that one before. He smiled slightly. Didn't work out great for the last guys. Korth signaled weapons lock. Destroy them. The Thrall vanguard unleashed a coordinated barrage. Plasma lances streaked across the void, slamming into the Midnight Resolve. The human vessel did not evade. It absorbed. Armor plates detonated outward in controlled bursts, venting energy into space. Beneath them, a secondary hull shimmered, a reactive lattice dispersing the plasma into harmless radiation arcs. The ship glowed like a wounded star. Ward's voice crackled over open comms. That tickles. Then the human warship fired. No glowing beam. No elegant arc. Just a flash of magnetic fury. A tungsten slug accelerated to a fraction of light speed tore through a Thrall destroyer. It didn't explode. It ceased to exist in any meaningful structural sense. The kinetic force alone sheared it apart, debris scattering like confetti at a funeral. Bridge alarms shrieked across the Dominion fleet. Shields ineffective, an officer cried. The projectile mass exceeds tolerance thresholds. The railgun cycled again. Another flash. Another warship split open, its reactor core venting atmosphere and flame into the void. Korth's confidence cracked. Advance! He roared. Overwhelm the target! Hundreds of Thrall vessels surged forward, saturating space with energy fire. The Midnight Resolve accelerated directly into them. It was suicidal. Or surgical. Point defense cannons erupted along its flanks, shredding incoming fighters. Missile pods deployed, not at capital ships, but at engine clusters and sensor arrays. Human targeting algorithms carved gaps in Dominion formations with cold precision. Then something truly unthinkable happened. Boarding pods launched. From the human ship. They are attempting insertion, a Thrall captain shrieked. No species boards Dominion vessels, Korth snapped. Explosions bloomed along multiple cruisers as human marines breached hulls with shaped charges. Interior feeds flickered to life, corridors filled with muzzle flashes and kinetic rifles thundering in enclosed spaces. Humans moved through alien ships like they'd rehearsed the layout. Because they had. Ward reappeared on the central feed, unfazed by the chaos behind him. You killed our explorers 12 years ago, he said calmly. Korth froze. Those had been minor reconnaissance units. A routine elimination. 12 years? Ward continued. You thought we didn't notice. Thought we were too busy arguing about politics and fuel prices. A faint smirk. We argue loud. But we build quiet. Another Thrall cruiser detonated from within. You've been expanding for centuries, Ward said. Steamrolling anyone who resists. Assimilating anyone who kneels. His eyes hardened. We don't kneel. The tactical display shifted. New signatures emerged from behind Jupiter's moons. Dozens. Human warships. Smaller than the Midnight Resolve, but fast. Aggressive. Wolf-pack formations sliding into flanking positions. Korth's breath hitched. This was a trap, he whispered. The damaged hull. The solitary presence. The calculated provocation. The humans had baited an entire devouring fleet into optimal kill range. A new transmission overrode all channels. This is President Sofia Alvarez of the United Earth Coalition. Her voice was steady, almost gentle. Dominion of Thrall, you entered our system under hostile intent. You executed our unarmed scouts. You assumed we would respond with fear. A pause that felt like judgment. You mistook patience for weakness. Behind her words, more human vessels phased into real space, hidden platforms activating along the asteroid belt. Korth's command ship shuddered as its escorts were obliterated by coordinated rail strikes. We remember our dead, Alvarez said softly. And we repay our debts. Ward leaned forward one last time. You wanted first contact? The Midnight Resolve spinal cannon hummed, charging beyond previous output levels. Congratulations. The shot that followed did not merely destroy a ship. It split the Thrall flagship's shield matrix in half and punched through its port flank, venting atmosphere and bodies into the cold dark. For the first time in 300 years, the Dominion of Thrall felt something unfamiliar. Not confusion. Not irritation. Fear. Fear spread through the Dominion fleet like a virus without a cure. Admiral Korth stood rigid as damage reports cascaded across his tactical display. Entire squadrons had collapsed in less than 6 minutes. Human Wolf-pack destroyers carved through flanks with disciplined bursts of kinetic fire, targeting propulsion, communication arrays, and shield nodes with surgical cruelty. They weren't fighting for glory. They were dismantling. Stabilize formation, Korth roared. Reorient heavy carriers. Focus fire on the primary human battleship. The Midnight Resolve drifted at the center of the chaos like a black iron monument. Scarred. Glowing at the seams. Unyielding. It should have been crippled. It wasn't. Plasma storms hammered its hull. Armor slabs peeled away in controlled detonations, revealing deeper layers, each one tougher, denser, more defiant. It was less a ship and more a fortress that had decided to grow engines. "Energy output rising!" a Thrall engineer screeched. "Their spinal weapon is charging again." Coarse frills flattened. "All vessels evasive." Too late. The railgun discharged. This time the projectile fragmented mid-flight. Hundreds of tungsten shards fanned outward at relativistic speed, turning 3 Dominion cruisers into expanding clouds of molten debris. The Thrall had never encountered a species that used physics as a blunt instrument. On the human bridge, Captain Elias Ward watched the battlefield with cold focus. "Status: Marine Teams Alpha through Delta have secured 3 enemy reactors," an officer replied. "Enemy internal resistance collapsing." Ward nodded. "Remind them not to get cocky. Last thing I need is a hero's funeral speech." A younger lieutenant hesitated. "Sir, their flagship is transmitting." Ward raised an eyebrow. "Put our squid friend on." Korth appeared again, though the projection flickered with damage interference. Smoke, or whatever passed for smoke aboard a Thrall vessel, drifted behind him. "You have made your point," Korth hissed. "Cease hostilities. We will withdraw and reassess your species classification." Ward blinked slowly. "Reassess?" "Yes. You are no longer primitive. You will be catalogued as a Tier 3 military civilization." Ward leaned forward, elbows on his command chair. "You killed our explorers. A routine elimination of unauthorized probes." Ward's jaw tightened. 12 years ago," he said quietly. "Do you know what happened on Earth that day?" Korth said nothing. "We buried 37 astronauts. Families watching empty coffins lowering to the ground. Kids saluting pictures." Ward's voice hardened. "You don't get to reassess that." Behind him, tactical displays updated. More human ships emerging from concealed positions, mining rigs converted into missile platforms, civilian freighters revealing hidden rail batteries. This wasn't just a fleet. It was a mobilized civilization. Korth's gaze flicked to the new signatures. "You prepared your entire system for war." Ward gave a humorless smile. "You've been conquering for 300 years. We figured you'd get around to us eventually." He shrugged slightly. "We don't like surprises." The Dominion fleet attempted a coordinated retreat vector. Human ships anticipated it. Gravitic mines detonated along escape corridors, warping local space and slamming Thrall vessels into one another. Several carriers crushed together in catastrophic collisions, their organic hulls rupturing like overripe fruit. "Admiral!" a Thrall officer screamed. "Our rear line has been cut off." Korth felt something alien to him, something his species had engineered out generations ago. Panic. Countercharge. Break through their smaller ships. Thrall heavy carriers surged forward, unleashing concentrated plasma streams. 2 human destroyers disintegrated under the assault. On the Midnight Resolve's bridge, a silence followed. Ward watched the debris spin away. "Names," he said. A pause. "Destroyers Hawkins and Tenzing, sir." Ward closed his eyes briefly. "Mark them." Then he looked up. "Helm. Bring us closer." "Sir, that puts us inside optimal firing." "I know." The Midnight Resolve accelerated straight toward the densest concentration of Thrall capital ships. Over open channels, Ward transmitted one final message. "You wanted to see what a human warship looks like up close." The battleship's forward armor split apart, revealing something hidden beneath layers of plating. A secondary weapon system. Not a railgun. Not missiles. A contained singularity drive, repurposed. Korth's eyes widened as sensors screamed. "They are destabilizing a gravity core." On the human bridge, alarms wailed. "Captain, if we vent that much curvature inside their formation." Ward's voice was calm. "Brace." The Midnight Resolve plunged into the heart of the Dominion fleet. And then it ruptured space. A localized gravitational implosion detonated outward, not large enough to consume the system, but powerful enough to shred anything within 1,000 kilometers. Thrall vessels twisted, hulls buckling as tidal forces tore them apart. The Dominion formation collapsed into chaos. Human Wolfpack ships darted along the periphery, finishing crippled targets with merciless efficiency. When the distortion faded, half of the 8th Devouring Fleet was gone. The rest drifted in disarray. Korth's flagship shuddered, systems failing one by one. He stared at the tactical map, now a graveyard. "How?" he whispered. Ward reappeared on screen, face illuminated by the fading glow of battle. "You built an empire by teaching the galaxy fear," Ward said. "We built ours by surviving it." Korth's voice cracked. "You cannot win a war against the Dominion. We have thousands of fleets." Ward gave a thin, dangerous smile. "Good." Behind him, human ships regrouped with disciplined precision. Rescue craft moved to retrieve survivors. Marine transports withdrew from captured Thrall hulls, after planting demolition charges. "We've been waiting for a worthy opponent," Ward continued. "You finally showed up." Korth realized then that this wasn't humanity's desperate stand. This was their opening move. The Midnight Resolve rotated slowly, railguns recharging, scarred hulls still burning but unbroken. Across the void, scattered Thrall ships attempted blind jumps to slip space. Human interdiction arrays flared. Escape routes collapsed. For the first time in Dominion history, a devouring fleet faced total annihilation. And Earth was not defending itself. Earth was declaring war. The first Dominion ship tried to run. It never made it to slip space. The moment its drives began to spool, space itself hardened around it. Human interdiction arrays, buried for years inside asteroids, disguised as mining infrastructure, ignited in sequence. The fleeing cruiser slammed into a wall of warped gravity and tore itself apart, hull peeling like wet paper. Across the battlefield, other Thrall vessels attempted emergency jumps. One by one they failed. Admiral Korth stared at the collapsing escape vectors on his display. "They anticipated our retreat patterns," he whispered. Of course they did. The humans hadn't just prepared for contact. They had studied the Dominion for over a decade. On the bridge of the Midnight Resolve, Captain Elias Ward stood with hands clasped behind his back, watching debris fields bloom like dying constellations. "Enemy mobility is at 12%, his tactical officer reported. "Remaining capital ships are clustering around the Thrall flagship." Ward nodded. "Cornered animals bite." A faint grin tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Good thing we brought bigger teeth." Another transmission cut through the static. Not from Korth. From somewhere deeper within the Thrall flagship. The signal was old. Encoded differently. Civilian frequency. Ward's eyes narrowed. "Patch it." The hollow display flickered. A different Thrall appeared, smaller, robes instead of armor, bioluminescent markings dim with fear. "This is Archivist Selka of the Dominion Historical Assembly," the alien said, voice trembling. "Human Commander, you are making a catastrophic mistake." Ward tilted his head. "That's so? You believe this fleet represents the Dominion's strength? It does not. It represents its pride." Behind Selka, alarms flashed crimson. "You have wounded pride," the archivist continued. "The Dominion will not negotiate after this. They will not reassess. They will purge." Ward's gaze hardened. "They were going to purge us anyway." Selka hesitated. "Yes," the alien admitted. A silence settled over the channel. Ward leaned closer to the projection. "Then at least now they'll remember why." He cut the transmission. On the Thrall flagship, Korth turned to the trembling archivist. "You broke protocol. You are losing," Selka replied softly. Korth's frills twitched violently. "The Dominion does not lose." Another human rail strike pierced the flagship's outer shield, cracking it like fractured glass. Selka looked at the tactical map, half the 8th Fleet gone, the rest crippled. "You already have." Back in the void, human destroyers shifted formation. They weren't firing blindly anymore. They were herding, driving the surviving Thrall ships inward, toward the Midnight Resolve. Ward's executive officer frowned. "Sir, We're channeling them into our immediate proximity. Ward nodded slowly. I know. Understanding dawned across the bridge crew. Captain, you don't mean… Ward's voice dropped to a low growl. They wanted to see our warship up close. He tapped a command. Deep within the Midnight Resolve, sealed compartments unlocked. Massive armored segments separated along the ship's dorsal spine. What had appeared to be structural bulk was something else entirely. Missile silos. Hundreds of them. Not nuclear. Not plasma. Each warhead contained compressed antimatter harvested over 12 quiet years of preparation. The Thrall flagship, battered but operational, finally recognized the configuration. They are armed for planetary sterilization, Korth breathed. On Earth, President Sofia Alvarez watched the battle unfold from a subterranean command center. Advisors stood in rigid silence around her. Authorization request from Captain Ward, an aide said quietly. Final strike package. Alvarez didn't hesitate. Approved. Back in space, Ward received the confirmation. He exhaled slowly. All vessels clear the blast perimeter. Human ships peeled away with disciplined speed, leaving the surviving Dominion cluster isolated around their dying flagship. Ward opened one last channel to Korth. The alien admiral appeared, wounded, one of his secondary eyes darkened. You fight savagely for a doomed species, Korth rasped. Ward's expression didn't change. No, he said evenly. We fight savagely for a species that refuses to kneel. Korth's voice trembled with fury. You cannot destroy us all. Ward gave a thin smile. Don't need to. He gestured slightly. Just you. The Midnight Resolve unleashed its payload. Missiles streaked outward in controlled spirals, antimatter cores shielded until impact. Thrall point defense systems fired desperately, but the volume was overwhelming. The first detonation swallowed a carrier hull, matter and antimatter annihilating in a silent white flash. The second carved a hole through 3 cruisers aligned too closely. The third struck the flagship's fractured shield. For a moment, time seemed to pause. Then the 8th devouring fleet ceased to exist. A sphere of blinding energy expanded outward before dissipating into glittering debris. Silence returned to Seoul. On the human bridge, no one cheered. Ward stared at the empty space where an empire's pride had once floated. Confirm kills, he said quietly. 8th devouring fleet, eliminated, the tactical officer replied. A breath moved through the crew, relief, grief, triumph tangled together. On the remains of the Thrall flagship, a single escape pod drifted unnoticed in the debris shadow. Inside, Archivist Selkaw clutched a recording device, eyes wide with horror. Dominion High Council, Selkaw whispered into the recorder, voice shaking. We have made a grave miscalculation. The pod's automated jump drive engaged. Far from Seoul, in the cold heart of Dominion territory, the High Council received the transmission hours later. They watched the footage in stunned silence, human warships emerging from concealment, the singularity detonation, the antimatter barrage. An elder counselor finally spoke. They are barbarians. Another shook their heads slowly. No. The final image froze on the scarred hull of the Midnight Resolve, drifting unbroken amid wreckage. They are strategists. Back in Seoul, Ward stood alone for a moment after the battle. His calm chimed. President Alvarez. You did what you had to, she said softly. Ward's voice was tired now. They'll come back. Bigger. Yes, she agreed. He glanced at the stars beyond the viewport. Good. There was no bravado in it. Only certainty. Behind him, repair crews swarmed the wounded Midnight Resolve. Names of the fallen scrolled across internal displays. 2 destroyers lost. 47 Marines dead. The cost of sending a message. Ward rested a hand against the viewport glass. Let them send their thousands of fleets, he murmured. Because now the Dominion knew something it had never known before. Humanity did not wait to be conquered. Humanity did not beg. And when threatened, humanity hit first. The silence after the storm was deafening. Sol hung calm, deceptively serene, while fragments of the Dominion's pride drifted like frozen stars across the void. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the Midnight Resolve, shoulders heavy but posture unyielding. Behind him, the crew moved like shadows, cleaning, repairing, tending to wounded Marines, but none celebrated. This wasn't victory. Not yet. It was a warning. A reckoning. Status report, Ward said quietly, almost to himself. All surviving units accounted for, his tactical officer replied. Casualties logged. System stabilizing. Enemy transponders dead. Ward nodded. His eyes lingered on the holographic field of debris. Every jagged hull, every shredded vessel told a story of underestimation. A story the thrall would not forget. A faint signal pinged on the comms console. Not the Dominion. Not any human vessel. Unknown. Far off, weak. But clear. Ward tapped the console. Patch it through. A figure materialized, small, humanoid, but the lighting distorted its features. Its voice was hesitant, trembling with urgency. This is Admiral Hraxel, it said, metallic resonance vibrating in every syllable. The Dominion, we survived, not all. We are sending coordinates for reinforcements. You cannot hold, humanity cannot. Ward's hand rested on the console. He didn't flinch. Admiral Hraxel, you are speaking from a corner of your empire that I just pulverized. Ward replied evenly. Your empire underestimated us for centuries. That was your mistake. Consider it corrected. Humanity does not negotiate with threats, Admiral. We end them. There was a pause. The thrall didn't reply. They didn't need to. Ward turned from the comm and walked to the viewport. Jupiter glimmered below, its moons casting fractured reflections across the hull. He imagined the Dominion High Council watching this display somewhere far away, horrified and impotent. Sir, the communications officer said, voice careful. We are detecting signatures, approaching Sol. Unknown. Large numbers. Ward's eyes narrowed. Reinforcements? Unknown, sir. But unlike the 8th Fleet, these are moving cautiously. Avoiding our interdiction arrays. Ward exhaled slowly, a wry half-smile tugging at his lips. Let them come. Let the galaxy witness exactly what happens when an empire decides humans are just another obstacle. He strode to the tactical display. A grid of Sol's orbit, asteroids, and wreckage blinked. His finger traced the path of the incoming fleet. Prep all active vessels. Secondary rail systems to full charge. Boarding teams on alert. Any misstep, we finish this, decisively. A young lieutenant raised a hand. Sir Morel. After the last engagement, some crews are questioning if this is humane. Ward turned, the weight of command in every line of his face. Humane? He asked, tone flat. They sent thousands to butcher our people, to exterminate entire worlds. Humanity is not humane, we're survivors. We protect what survives. And when threatened, we remind the galaxy why they should fear us. Behind him, repair crews work silently, armor plates welding themselves back into place. Every strike and counter-strike had been precise. Calculated. Efficient. Brutal. Ward's mind wandered briefly to the Marines lost, names, faces, memories. They fought bravely, he muttered. And we will honor them, by making sure no one dares do this again. The communications console beeped again. Another thrall signal, closer this time, more coordinated. The words came in rough Terran translation. We surrender, request terms. Ward leaned back against the viewport. The galaxy had just witnessed something extraordinary. A species small by age, underestimated in every war council, declaring in no uncertain terms that it would not kneel. That it would not cower. That it would strike first, and strike brilliantly. Open a channel, Ward said. Patch it through. The Dominion emissaries appeared, trembling under the weight of centuries of assumed dominance. Ward's face was calm, his eyes cold steel. You thought conquest was inevitable. he said. You thought patience was weakness. You were wrong. You destroyed the lives of our scouts 12 years ago. You violated our space. And now you know exactly what happens to anyone who tries it again. He paused, letting the words sink. Every eye on the display absorbed them, the trembling Thrall officers, every human watching from behind the viewport. Ward's smile returned, faint, dangerous. Leave our system. Inform your High Council. Humanity does not ask for respect. We take it. The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Sol's system glowed cold and quiet. Yet every officer knew the truth. This was not the end. It was a declaration. Humanity had drawn its line, and it had done so with fire and precision. Ward turned back to the viewport, looking past Jupiter, past the scattered wreckage, to the dark reaches of space beyond. Somewhere out there, more threats would come. More empires. More fleets. He grinned, low and lethal. Good, he muttered. Let them bring their thousands. We'll be ready. And the galaxy will learn, the hard way, why humans are never to be underestimated. And in that quiet moment, the midnight resolve drifted amidst the remnants of an empire, scarred but unbroken, a testament to ingenuity, fury, and the terrifying truth: humanity did not kneel. Humanity never would. The stars blinked back at them, silent witnesses to the rise of a species that had just declared war on expectation itself. And the galaxy would never forget.